Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. One of the things that fires a lot of anglers up is catching a trophy caliber bass. It is the thing that can take a terrible day of fishing to a good day of fishing with one bite. One simple bite can change the outcome of the entire day. So, having said that, I do get a lot of questions from people wanting to know what baits I think they should be using to catch the biggest bass in the lake. Now, that's a tough question because obviously there are tons and tons of baits out there that do catch a lot of really big fish. There are baits that limit the number of bites you get to mostly big caliber fish, but it doesn't make them the only baits that you should be using to catch the biggest fish in the lake. So today I want to go over some of the baits that I think overall produce the most big bites. And these are the baits that will give you the best chance at catching the giants that live in your lake. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app, which will help you select the best fishing places in the lake with features like the lake level, the current flow, the top baits tool, which will help you select the best baits for certain locations throughout the lake. Whether that's a clear water, stained water, dirty water, it'll choose the best bait for that location, provide you with all the information like what structure, what retrieve, different reel, all of the information that you need to catch the fish. This is in the app. The cool part about this app, though, is it's not just based on areas. It does provide you with specific tournament winning data that has been collected to help you figure out your best choices for baits and locations for whatever region of the lake it is that you want to fish. On top of that, not only does the app provide you with best locations, it gives you water clarity as well. So maybe you're on a lake like Lake Eufaula, where there is a bunch of different water clarity located throughout the entire lake. This will help you identify the clearest portions as well as the dirtiest portions of the lake. Plus, the Deep Dive app has now added the wind effect map, which is going to take all of the different wind conditions for the past couple of days and show you what banks on the lake are being hit the hardest. They also have inflow points that show you different places throughout the lake where your water is being flushed into the lake through different ditches and creeks and rivers, providing you with high percentage places to fish and letting you know what parts of the lake are going to be the best areas after a rain. Check out the Deep Dive app to help you become a better angler. So the first category of baits that we're going to talk about are your simple glide baits or big swim baits. This right here is a Biggs with sharp hook. It's a Biggs glide bait. Any of your glide baits that are in that 6-inch range or bigger are really going to mimic a lot of the bigger forage species that live in your lakes and therefore present a good opportunity at being the bait that's going to trigger the biggest bass in that lake. So I really, really like to throw glide baits. Now, having said that, I do think that there is a time and a place for them. If you're a tournament angler, it's really tough to throw these all day long and think that you're going to catch 5 fish on it. You may see a lot of really big fish, but it's not necessarily always going to convert into caught fish. Now, there are some positives with that. If you learn where those big fish live, sometimes you can go back with some of these other baits to generate them to strike. But this is one of the absolute best baits and categories of baits at getting the biggest fish in the lake to commit to your bait. So a big glide bait like this, and that's not even a big one. That's actually the small size. That's a 6-inch. I wouldn't be going any smaller than 6-inch, honestly. Along that same line, you start looking at your bigger soft swim baits that are in the 6-inch range or bigger. Now, this one right here is just a solid body, but you can have some of the big hollow belly swim baits as well. I think I've got a bigger one here. So this is like a 7 or 8-inch Batrix. This is a 6-inch version. Hollow belly, solid body. In either case, you run it with whatever swim bait head you want. I've got a core tackle tush. This is a 3/4 ouncer that's in the body right now. The point here is, again, you're mimicking a bigger forage species for that bass. Generally speaking, the bigger the bass get, the bigger the forage that they eat gets. So from that standpoint, your swim bait, again, is a very good one to mimic. Now, once you get away from some of those baits that are really trying to match the hatch per se, you get into some baits that are really good at creating reaction strikes. Big fish tend to be smarter. They've seen a lot of stuff out there. They're harder to trick into biting. And because of that, you need to generate a lot of reaction strikes. Well, one of the absolute best baits at doing that is a vibrating jig. This is a Berkeley slobber knocker, your Z-Man chatterbaits, your, whatever bait or vibrating jig out there that you want to throw. The point here is a vibrating jig is excellent at creating reaction strikes. It's one of those baits that you take, you deflect off cover, you rip out of grass, you impart a lot of movement and action in this bait with your rod. And every time that bait darts and moves around, it does a really good job at creating a potential opportunity at a reaction strike. By This is, in my opinion, one of the absolute best categories of baits to generate big bites in a tournament situation. You don't get maybe as many bites as you'd get on, say, a spinner bait or a swim jig, but the quality really drastically goes up and you still get enough bites where it's a really good tournament bait. Along those same lines, a lot of the big fish live in very, very heavy cover. Your brush piles, your big laydown trees, your thickest of weeds, your thick floating vegetation. And from that standpoint, a jig is one of the best baits at getting into those areas, being weedless, still having the profile and the bulk to generate those big strikes. This is a Picasso hog snatcher. I got a Berkeley meaty chunk on the back here. Just one of my absolute favorites at catching big bass. It's, again, you probably limit the number of bites you get on a jig versus, say, a Texas rig, but your jig bite, your quality in average size is generally going to be better. It's another great tournament bait. Now, this one might actually throw you for a little bit of a loop. This is to throw your soft stick baits, your wacky rigs. This is a Maxent Berkeley, the General, your Senkos, your Yum Dingers, whatever one that you like to throw. The key here is a soft stick bait, fished weightless, either Texas rigged or as a wacky rig where you hook it right in the middle. This is one of the best baits at catching those big fish that are up shallow, that have seen a lot of other baits. They just have a hard time turning down that easy meal. Now, the cool thing with throwing a wacky rig is you get a lot of bites. You're going to catch a lot of little fish as well, but this is one of the best baits at catching big fish too. So don't overlook your wacky rigs. The last one I'm going to talk about is a big old umbrella rig like this guy. You can get them in 3-arm versions, 5-arm versions, like unlimited arm versions. The point here is, generally speaking, you are throwing baits that maybe are not necessarily big, a little bit smaller, but because you're doing it in bulk, you create the idea of a big school of bait fish, and that's something that triggers those big fish into biting. They see an opportunity where they can get a mouthful of bait and they take it. So your umbrella rigs are definitely one of the best ways to go about it. This is a Picasso schoolie rig. A lot of big fish get caught on the umbrella rigs, but you do have to make sure that your umbrella rig meets your state regulations. States have different rules regarding how many arms that you can use. But I'd be willing to bet you right here that these 5 or 6 different baits are definitely some of the absolute best at triggering those really big fish in your lake to biting. These ones for me have accounted for a lot of big fish awards over the years. Anyways, let me know if I forgot one. Put it in the comment section as to which baits you think catch a lot of really big fish. I would love to see what you have to say as well. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.